please, gentlemen, have a seat and take some time also for questions and answers.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Edward. I'm an OpenStreetMapper. I've been mapping for 15 years, and I'm part of the Wikipedia community as well. I'm an admin on English language Wikipedia. So I'm going to be talking today about a tool that I've built for machine-assisted matching of OpenStreetMap and Wikidata items. So we all know OpenStreetMap, I'm sure. Wikidata is Wikidata is a big database full of things, including geographical objects with coordinates. So it'd be nice if we can match them together, and then I add links to OpenStreetMap that take you to Wikidata. So I'm going to show you the software that I've built. I'll talk a bit more about what Wikidata is after that. So here's a screenshot. This is the center of Brussels around the Grand Place. So this is I've done a search, and the system is run. It takes a few minutes, and it finds some suggestions for things that match between the two different databases that you might want to add links. So if I scroll down the page, I get a login button. So I hit the login button, and that takes me to OpenStreetMap, and I log in with my OpenStreetMap credentials using the OpenStreetMap OAuth. I come back to the same page. And then if I scroll down, these are the suggested matches. So if I got this first section of a match is the data that comes from Wikidata and Wikipedia. So you've got the label, how it's known in Wikidata, and then the item types, and the extract is taken from Wikipedia. So in this case, it's just there's only a French Wikipedia article, so the extract is in French. And then underneath that, we've got the suggested matching OpenStreetMap item. So the system thinks that these two things are the same thing. Over here, we've got the map. The blue pins are where the Wikidata item coordinates are. So we've got this option, show on map, and that will zoom in on one of these matches so you can see it. So I'm going to use the Maison de Roy in the Grand Place as my example. And so this is zoomed in. You can see on the map the red pin is the selected Wikidata item, and there's a blue border like a polygon around the OpenStreetMap object. And the system is saying this is an exact match. So if we like a match, then we take the box next to the item to say that it's good. So we can go through all of these and check that they're valid. Once we're happy, then we can click Save button to add the links to OpenStreetMap. Get a confirmation page where you just see the same list of matches again. The system's like, are you really sure you want to save these? There's the list of matches. And then you get change comment. You can set the comment for your change set. It makes one up by default, but you can edit it. You hit save, and then it will save these links into OpenStreetMap. So people are using the tool. So 140 users have used it, and you can see there 6,500 change sets, almost 180,000 Wikidata links added to OpenStreetMap. So the system uses these matching criteria for deciding if something is a match between the two systems. Here is an example. Here's a pub. So entity type, coordinates. The system looks at the name and sees if the name is the same. Like it does some normalization on the name. It lowercases the name and removes and bits and pieces like that. And if it can't match on the name, then it'll try matching on the street address. So I've got some more examples. This is Paddington Station in London. So it'll look at the identifier, the station code, which is in both Wikidata and OpenStreetMap. And in fact, there's lots of identifiers that I compare. So these identifiers all have a key that they appear in OpenStreetMap and a property in Wikidata that I can use to match on. Here's another example. Here's a lighthouse, and all lighthouses have a standard reference number that they can match on. So I'm going to talk about, this is a theatre in the centre of Brussels. You can see like there's the pin of where the theatre is. And the system knows from Wikidata that it's a theatre, and it knows that OpenStreetMap uses amenity equals theatre to represent theatres. But how do we get that mapping between the two? So if we have a look at Wikidata, here's the theatre on Wikidata, and it's got instance of theatre. There's like a type system in Wikidata, so we know this is a theatre. And then if we have a look on the theatre page, you can see there's a property within Wikidata for OSM tag or key. So Wikidata knows OpenStreetMap tags, and that's how the system can figure out, you know, that how a theatre is represented on OpenStreetMap. The important thing if you want to work with Wikidata is you need to use the Wikidata query service. Like in the background, my system is using this. There's a user interface that you can look at and you can try out. And the queries are written in Sparkle, which is a semantic query language. This example is theatres in Brussels. And Sparkle's kind of complicated. Like you don't have to know this to use at all, but it's very useful. If you want to work with Wikidata, you should figure out Sparkle. And this example query I've got here is the theatres in Brussels, you can see. So I can use Sparkle to have a look at the OSM tag key within Wikidata as well. This is a search for amenities within Wikidata, and you can see it's found a list of the various kind of types of things that are amenities in the OSM key that goes with them. So this is the kind of searches that the system is doing underneath, like much more complex Sparkle queries, and the Sparkle supports bounding box searches, which is important for geospatial data. So that's the bit of the code that you use for searching in a bounding box. I'll just talk a bit about how the matcher runs. Like you do a search for a place, and it gives you some search results, and you pick from one of the search results. The search results are coming from the Nominatum API, which also gives us the polygon for the thing. And then once we've got the polygon, we can figure out the bounding box and go and ask Wikidata for items within that bounding box. And we also grab the first few paragraphs of text in every language, so that we've got the excerpts to show on the comparison page, and also to get the street addresses, which often appear in the excerpt. So this is built with WebSocket. Like the user sits looking at this map for a minute or two while it's doing some processing, and it shows you the status as it's updating. So the next step is it goes off and searches the OpenStreetMap Overpass API to find matching items within the bounding box, and then it loads all of that data into PostGIS to be able to do the comparison, and then it runs the matching process to try and find things. So just if anyone's interested, this is the stack that I've used to build. It's all written in Python with Flask, SQL Alchemy. I'm using Leaflet and Bootstrap on the front end. So I'm just going to talk about some of the other features in the software. Like one of the problems I had was what language should I use for showing labels in? Like there isn't an easy way to find what language, you know, is the preferred language for a particular country. And even country level isn't useful because sometimes it varies by region. So the system tries to guess what language to show the labels in. Like in central Brussels, it's decided to use Dutch as the top one because that has the most labels, and then French, and then English. But if we don't like it, we can change it. So there's an edit button, and you can drag and drop to reorder. So maybe I can drag them, you know, switch them around if I want to change it. So I'll show you some more features. The system detects that the center of Brussels is quite small and complains and says I might want to choose a larger area. So it gives some suggestions for bigger areas that I might want to search on. Equally, if I try searching for Belgium, it'll work, but it's big for the system. So if I click on Belgium, you get to the page where it runs and tries to find the matches, but it's too big, so the system splits it up into chunks. If you just try and do the whole of a country at once, then you'll get a timeout from the Wikidata query service and from the OpenStreetMap overpass service. So I split the area into chunks, and I do them one at a time, and then recombine the results. And even with the chunking, sometimes I hit timeouts, so the system detects when I hit a timeout, and then splits it into 4 chunks and retries. This is one approach for doing large areas. The problem you'll have with this is the list of matches will have like 10,000 items on it that you've got to go through and check, and there's no kind of bookmarking where you can just do half and then come back later. Like if you leave the browser window open, it'll work. But so it'd be better if we had a different approach, which is we can use the browse interface. So if there's a link here for browsing. If I click browse, then I get a list of the subregions within Belgium, and I can zoom in on these. So if I click on Brussels Capital Region, then I get these are all the municipalities of Belgium.
Yeah, could I just get a quick wording? I'm sorry, just a quick announcement. People who are sitting on the stairs or standing here in the exit, could I please ask you to leave because you're blocking one of the emergency exits? So either take one of the free seats if they're still available, but people sitting on stairs and standing here, kindly request to leave. The live stream is on and it is working. Thank you very much.
There's some places here available.
I'm sorry to disturb
No
you,
worries.
but I couldn't reach one of those.
Edward, you'd like to stay?
Sorry?
You're allowed to stay.
Okay, great, thanks. So that's most of the features I want to talk about in the software. I'll just talk about Wikidata a bit for people who aren't familiar with Wikidata. It's a database of structured data run by the Wikimedia Foundation, the same people as Wikipedia. It's been around since 2012. And why do we want to do this is the other question. So I'm going to use the ground place as my example. Here's the ground place on Wikipedia. And here's a link to take you to Wikidata. Here's the Wikidata item that represents the ground place. So we get lots of links to Wikipedia. There's 50 languages, there's articles written about the ground place, which is useful. This is the main chunk of a Wikidata page. You get a list of statements. This is a bit like tags in OpenStreetMap, like key and value. And then this is the key thing for referring to a Wikidata page. They all have a unique identifier. They starts with a Q followed by number, and that appears in the URL as well. And Wikidata identifiers are permanent and stable. They won't change over time when something gets renamed. So they're a useful way of linking into a catalog. And this is what it looks like when you look on OpenStreetMap at the ground place. You can see it's got the Wikidata link in there as a tag. So again, what do we get from Wikidata? We get a link to Wikimedia Commons. Like if you want photos of the ground place, there's over 200 photos. We'll get some more labels, like you can have the name in different languages, like more labels than appear in OpenStreetMap. And we get some external identifiers. So the Wikidata has links into the Freebase ID, and it has the GeoNames ID or the World Heritage Site ID. All very useful. Like just by having the Wikidata link, we've got linked into these external catalogs. So just to recap, this is what we get: labels in more languages, links to Wikipedia, links to Wikimedia Commons, identifiers for other data catalogs. So this is a good thing, but there's people adding the tags by hand to OpenStreetMap, but it's time consuming, and so that's why I thought it'd be good to automate it. But there's also some difficulties trying to link the two systems. Like the licenses are different. Wikidata is CC0, which is like public domain, whereas OpenStreetMap uses its own license, the Open Database license. And so you can't copy any data from OpenStreetMap into Wikidata because of the difference in licensing. But it even gets worse than that. Like they use different intellectual property jurisdictions. Like OpenStreetMap asserts database rights under European law, and the Wikimedia Foundation is keener on US intellectual property law, which says that things like coordinates are facts and they're not protected by intellectual property. So there's people within the OpenStreetMap community are suspicious of where the coordinates in Wikidata come from. They question whether a lot of them were copied from Google Maps. Like people look up where something is on Google Maps, get the coordinates, put them in Wikidata. In which case, does that make Wikidata a derived work of Google Maps? But I think that these problems don't really affect this tool because I'm not copying any data between the systems. Like I use the coordinates to find the matches, but the only thing I'm doing is adding the link. So my first attempt at this was like a fully automated system where I was just uploading tags without checking them first, and that was against the rules. People were unimpressed. I had a role account doing that, which got blocked. So better to have the user interface where people can check things, and also local people can check things in their own area. Like it's not just me trying to do the whole world. So yeah, machine-assisted editing is good. What about adding links in the other direction? It would be nice to put links in Wikidata that point at OpenStreetMap. Now that is difficult because OpenStreetMap doesn't have stable identifiers. Like this is the URL for the Grand Place, and you see it's got an ID in there. That ID isn't guaranteed to stay the same. Like someone is free to come to OpenStreetMap and redraw the Grand Place maybe in finer detail, and the ID will change. And there's been discussions within OpenStreetMap about adding permanent IDs that don't change, but those have been going on for years, and it still doesn't have permanent IDs. They're quite permanent. Like this probably won't change, but not quite permanent enough for us to start putting them in Wikidata. So. We just have the links going in one direction at the moment. Yeah, so just another screenshot of the tool, and that's mostly it. I'm just going to I'll do a live demo and see if this works. So this is the page that I was just describing. We scroll to the top. Like I've got English is the preferred option. It's still, not a lot of it's in English because, but here we've got the name of a pub called the King of Spain, and it's come up in English because I've got English selected. I can click Show Tags, and it shows the tags that represent this. The building equals yes is highlighted because it's got building over here. So, that's the matching type. This one actually matches on identifier. So none of the names match perfectly. The names are a bit all over the place, but it's got this website address here, which matches this website address here. So this website is from Wikidata, and this is OpenStreetMap, and it's managed to match it. I can do show on map, and then you get to see the pub highlighted. So I've checked all these, and I can scroll down to the bottom. So here you've got the Brussels Stock Exchange, and it knows from the categories on Wikipedia that the Brussels Stock Exchange is defunct, like it's in the defunct stock exchanges category. So it's like maybe this isn't a good match because maybe the stock exchange doesn't exist anymore. And actually, if I click on show on map, you can see it's highlighted the building, like that's the match it's found. And I've got two pins here, which are both the Brussels Stock Exchange. There's Bourse of Brussels, and there's Brussels Stock Exchange. So what's going on there is that there's two items within Wikidata that represent the stock exchange. And one of them represents the building, and the other one represents the institution. But they both have coordinates, and they've both matched. So the system doesn't know which to use, and so it gives you like an error. It's got OSM coordinate matches multiple items and a little cross, like so. If I scroll to the bottom, and then I click add, then this is the confirmation page, and you've got this warning here suggesting you talk to your local mapping community, but I'm just going to hit save. And it's using WebSockets, and it's going through, and it's saving. So this is editing OpenStreetMap, and it's edited OpenStreetMap, and then I can say, view your change set. And you can see if I scroll down just here, I've edited all of these things and added Wikidata tags. So that is my talk. Are there any questions?
Yes, the first one. Hello.
Hi.
Do you know of any piece of software that actually use the tags afterwards to like click on a map?
The
And does make the Wikipedia tag?
my software doesn't consider the Wikipedia tag. I think quite a lot of the Wikipedia tags are wrong. Like there's a lot more Wikidata items than there are Wikipedia articles, and so the Wikidata tag can be a lot more precise. Like you might find a seaside resort has a beach, and the beach is referred to in the article, and so people link the beach to the seaside resort. But you know, there might be a Wikidata item that just represents the beach, so you could do a more precise link that way. And does anything use it? The OpenStreetMap web interface is using it. Well, it understands it and links through. And the OpenStreetMap editor that's on the website, the ID editor, understands Wikidata and will query Wikidata and pull the title from Wikidata. I've actually got an example, if I can figure out how to. Here we go.
I suppose if you click on one of the things you've just edited.
Well, so you're asking about the Wikidata tag. If this example, Maison de Roy, you know, is a building in the Grand Place. But if you look at the Wikipedia tag, it says, you know, this is the Grand Place article in Dutch on the. So this is wrong. This Wikipedia tag. Like now, I'm going to add the correct Wikidata tag. Maybe the software should be taking out this Wikipedia tag at the same time or correcting it. I don't know. Yeah, it should. But I haven't like written any code to handle Wikipedia tags at all, and you know, I need to do that.
The gentleman.
Yeah, it seems very, very useful. I was wondering if you consider adding also the possibility to check the accuracy of existing links. Not only a helpful tool to add new links, but something that will help to check the quality of the existing links.
So I've got something. Yes, that's a good point. Like here, I've got already tagged. This. Just let it load. So yeah, it'll show you a list of things already tagged, and it'll say whether my suggestion matches what is there already. Here we go. So that one's not a great one, but yeah, these are all matching. It's a bit unsure about the central station. So yeah, there's something there to do that.
The lady behind.
interesting work. So I just wanted to ask, what is the status of Wikidata today? It got funding last year, I remember. And are you doing this voluntarily, or are you being paid to do this?
I'm not being paid. This is just for fun.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any kind of official connection to Wikidata.
Even nicer.
Yes. I have a comment for you. The Wikipedia plugin in JSON will do matching as well. Will give you a list of things that are not matched correctly.
Yep, good.
So how do I find an area to work on?
Like if you just search for your local area and have a look, try that. Or you can browse, so you might pick, your country and then zoom in a bit. The one of the pieces that I'm missing is like keeping track of progress. Like I should be able to say, well, Brussels is 100% done, or the browse screen should have kind of percentages next to each subregion. So, there isn't a good way to figure out like where to go and work on at the moment.
Does that answer your question?
Just you mentioned that there's no way to bookmark your work in progress, and if you hit refresh, basically your work will be lost. So how about using the browser storage to store just what the user's been working on, and just adding basically a hash into the URL to use one of the things stored in the local browser storage, that you don't have to store something on the server side, but on the other hand, you don't pollute the URL. This could solve this issue. But obviously, you should probably do huge edits, but still.
Yeah, this is a good idea. The other option would be like it might show you one match at a time and say, is this good or bad? And you hit save, and like I could be sending something back to the server and storing it. So there's ways of doing it. Like I've just been avoiding the problem by working on smaller areas, like not trying to do massive areas at once. Like the other thing is how the change set looks to other people who come and have a look at OpenStreetMap. Like if you try and do a whole country, it'll be very overwhelming for someone to try and look at your work. So that's like a nice reason for using smaller areas.
Just a small, tiny command. You said about the stable identifiers, lack of them in OpenStreetMap. So just to everyone, if you want to see an example of unstable identifiers, Node 1. It's got pretty interesting history.
Thanks.
These are all points of interest with one fixed coordinate. What about the routes within their areas?
It doesn't work very well with linear features. So the tool that I'm using doesn't seem to load rivers, I don't think. It does streams and canals, but again, not very well. Like the canals are often represented as a series of ways. And like when I built this, I was very keen to have a one-to-one mapping between OpenStreetMap and Wikidata. And there isn't a one-to-one mapping. Like OpenStreetMap tends to have, separate, like represent a road as a series of ways, and they're the same road because they've got the same reference or the same name. So I get into difficulties with bridges and tunnels, because in OpenStreetMap, bridges and tunnels tend to be represented as two ways, like in either direction for a road bridge or a rail bridge. And so if I want to add the Wikidata tag, I need to add it to both ways, and I don't support that. Like the system will say, I found two matching things. So, yeah. Yeah, stuff like that. The bridges there's another tag for man-made equals bridge, which is supposed to be a polygon drawn around the bridge. And I've got some special case code that detects that and says, oh, I'll use that one, and ignores the others. But tunnel doesn't have something like that. Tunnels, if it's a two-bore tunnel, it's always represented as two lines on OpenStreetMap. And I need to change my code or convince OpenStreetMap that there should be an object that uniquely represents the tunnel. Yeah. It works with hiking routes. Like hiking routes is a linear feature and is a relation, and it matches those up. Yeah.
Gentleman on the right from yours first. Yes, you.
My question was, which kind of objects? I see ways and nodes, but you mentioned relations just now.
Yep, yep, does relations. Yeah, does all three types of objects.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What about tags like brand Wikidata, operator Wikidata?
I don't go near that. I don't touch those. That's for other people. Like maybe sometime. The brands is complicated because I have a problem with banks. When you try and do a city where a bank has an office, I often match a nearby branch, things like that. Like it doesn't handle, and libraries get confusing because the main library and branches. There's a lot of libraries in Wikidata. Someone has been loading all the libraries into Wikidata, but it's tricky.
How easy or difficult would it be to make a pull request to add a link between a Wikidata property and an OSM tag? Is it a one-liner or is it one data code?
Add a link between a Wikidata property. Oh, I see what you mean, like the identifiers. Like, yeah, there's a config file. Well, there's a bit of code that is just like a mapping between them. Yeah, it's not difficult at all. Maybe one day it'll move to the database and you can just click a button to do it, but at the moment it's set at the code.
I have a question for you.
Go for it.
You said facts are not protected in the US.
Yeah. Like because they're too trivial under US property intellectual property law to be protected. Like if you tell me the coordinates of something, you can't claim any kind of intellectual property on that. I mean, if for a single coordinate, it's the same in the EU, but for a database of coordinates, that is like a lot of work you've done collecting a database, and so the EU says that that's protected, but in the US, no, it's not protected.
Okay, then I'm starting to understand why
They are.
Trump is still in the White House. Second question is, how can they help you help the community?
Yeah, I mean, people can use the tool, or file bugs. Like I've got bug tracking on OpenStreetMap on GitHub. That's it, I think. I mean, if anyone wants to contribute, like I'm the only developer at the moment. The code is kind of tricky to install. There is Ansible playbook for installing it, but there's a lot of moving parts. Like there's lots of bits to it to try and get it working.
You say a lot of moving parts. You are on your own.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in terms of viability. The moment that you run into the wrong train, then this project is sort of at the end of its life cycle, as you are. How would you want to continue this, make it more sustainable?
Yeah, good question. Well, like I say, the code is out there, so someone could take it over. Like, yeah, I don't have an answer really to how to make it more sustainable.
Okay. Well, maybe that's the case with lots of source projects, actually. But thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Okay. Can the next speaker, speaker kind?